So let's look at a different pattern here. I had been using the same pattern for a couple videos. Let's switch it up. Let's say that I have a pattern that goes like this. 3, and then there's a gap, and then it goes to 10. Okay? First thing is, what type of pattern is this? Well, in the other video I did geometric, so let's do arithmetic. If it's arithmetic, that means we're adding the same thing every time. So I know that I'm adding something and adding the same thing to get from 3 up to 10. Well, 10 minus 3 is a total difference of 7. That's the total difference. From the first term to the third term is 3 minus 1. That's 2 total steps. 7 divided by 2 is 3.5, and that's the common difference. What that means is I'm adding 3.5 each time. If I add 3 and 3.5, I get, almost did that wrong, I get 6.5. If I add 6.5 and 3.5, I get 10. So what I can say is that 6.5 was really just the first term plus 3.5. And 10 was really just the first term plus 3.5 to get to the second term, plus another 3.5 to get to the third term. And then the fourth term, whatever that is, would just be 3 plus 3.5 plus 3.5 plus 3.5. The very first term is just 3 by itself. And what I'm noticing is a pattern here. I'm noticing that for the first term, I'm adding 0 copies of 3.5. For the second term, I'm adding 1 copy. For the third term, I'm adding 2 copies of 3.5. For the fourth term, I'm adding 3 copies of 3.5. There's got to be a way to shorten this instead of just writing out plus 3.5 over and over and over again. For the fourth term, I could shorten it by saying I'm doing 3 plus 3 copies of 3.5. I'm adding 3.5 3 times, which is the same as adding 3 times 3.5. For the third term, I'm doing 3 plus 2 copies of 3.5. For the second term, I'm doing 3 plus 1 copy of 3.5. And for the first term, I'm doing 3 plus 0 copies of 3.5. If you skip ahead, that means I know that the fifth term is going to be 3 plus 4 copies of 3.5. I know that the seventh term is going to be 6 copies of 3.5. I know that the 99th term is going to be 98 copies of 3.5. In general, whatever term I want, I have to do first term plus 1 less 3.5. So to type that out in general, you can say that term number n is whatever the first term is plus n minus 1 copies of 3.5. And you can see that this pattern goes through the point of 1 comma 3, somewhere in there, 1 comma 3, goes up through 2 comma 6.5, goes up through 3 comma 10, and continues going on and on and on. So that's one example of finding an explicit equation to an arithmetic sequence.